Right. Okay. So if you have all these data sets, right? Are you guys with me? If you have what Okay. If you have all these data sets, we have two ways of put these are all these ones are our raw data sets. So this is what we're using as our raw data sets, right? In Yeah, we are using a few, not actually everything. We are using a few, but I'm not really sure, right? I think other payments, just long as we are going on, right? There really isn't much issue with I don't think we're using this one in particular. Okay, so this we are using all these we are using data sets as our raw data sets. Now in a real life scenario, you're not going to have like CSVs like this. These are just static files, right? They don't really change or anything. In a real life scenario, you're more likely going to have like a stream of data coming in maybe daily or in periodically, right? Over time, the stream of data is just coming in and is loading into your BigQuery table, or you have like an export. You have data that is being exported from somewhere in on a daily basis, on a timed basis, right? On a scheduled basis. So this is just a very basic idea, right? We are using this as our raw data for this particular project to make it simple. So what we are going to do is we have two ways of inserting this into BigQuery. Number one, we can use our seeds. So we can use these seeds inside here. We can put everything inside here and just run dbt seed, right? We can do that, and we can also go directly into BigQuery and then create a data set and then add those tables directly, right, manually inside here through BigQuery. Now, let me give you an example, or let me explain. So for this seeds data set, right, it's not necessary that you every it's not like every data that you have, every static data that you have, you just throw it inside your seeds and you run your dbt seeds and it uploads inside BigQuery. Seeds in dbt is meant for a particular thing, right? It's meant to act as a table or a set of tables that does not actually change over time. So it could be a reference table. And a reference table, a good example would be list of countries in on Earth, right? So the list of countries on Earth rarely changes, but you just want to have a table that you can use and reference the name of a particular country. So that is a good example of what a seed will be. But for something like um, customers data sets cannot be a seed, right? Because you are always going to have new customers, you're always going to be losing customers. Other items cannot be a seed, right? Other payments, all these things cannot necessarily be a seed. So we are not going to be putting them inside. We are not going to put using DBT seeds to put it inside. So let's not that way we will not develop some maybe a bad habit, right? Where if you want to load data into your BigQuery, you just put it inside seeds and run. You have to go and put it you have to upload your data inside BigQuery manually. Right? Just for these projects. Remember, this is a let's say small project or a beginner's project where you have to do most of these things manually. In a more proper system, you set up your ingestion, so so data will be loaded into BigQuery automatically through some form of the other, maybe through what they call it, ingesting using Python or using another provider, right? To put your data directly into BigQuery. So in this case now, we'll just use seeds. So the first thing we are going to do is we are going to upload it inside BigQuery. To do that, we'll have to create, if your BigQuery project is still empty like mine, you create a data set. So a data set is series of tables. Right? We create a data set, and the data set that we want to create first is our raw for our raw tables, for our raw data. So just call it raw let me see, Olist raw data. So this is okay, right? So just create your data set, and your date location must contain only letter. Look at me. Polish raw data. So your data location will just be US, and then you create a data set. No, it should be there. Is this what it's showing you? Is this what it's showing you? I would know from you. Is this what's showing you? Okay, just click here. Yeah, click Explorer. You see your data set. Funny how click on click on data set. Even if you can't see it, you can just yeah, you can just click on this and create data set. Mm, it's okay. Only is raw data, right? Only is raw data. I never really understood the purpose of this tab in particular. Maybe because I've not gone that deep, but this one is just kind of confusing. So to make it easy, just come over here. You see everything here. Create your data set. List raw data US and then create data set. So this is where we are going to upload. We are going to upload your data inside here, all those raw ones inside there. Let me see. See this empty. I want to know if Mr. Ezekiel is with us. So you can just send a message so that I know you're following. Okay. Oh yeah, I'm recording. Okay, so now we want to upload all those data inside our BigQuery table. First, just enter inside your data sets, right? So this is your data set here, and go inside it, and automatic, and here you will see create table. So it's a very straightforward process. But first off, just go into your projects. Or is it even necessary? I wanted to say you should like keep your add your data sets to your project, but that won't be necessary since you're going to upload it inside BigQuery. Okay, let's see. Models, heading, customers, other items, other payments, others, products, and sellers. So these are the ones we'll be using: customers, other items, payments, orders, products, and sellers. Right, just those ones. We won't be using the rest. Let me delete every other one we're not using. We're not using geolocation data sets. Okay, we are not using geolocation, so I'll really delete that. Other items, other payments, we are using those, so they are over here. You can have a look at this. I'm trying to follow the steps. Okay, sorry, have I gone too far? Yeah, you see them in one moment. I'm trying to hope I'm trying to catch up with Mr. Ezekiel. He says he's trying to follow the steps. So are you trying to create your data set? If you are trying to create your data set, this is where you're going to create it. Right, so over here. So once you just create your data set, you put in your data set ID and you select US. So Mr. Ezekiel, you can let me know. Yes, I'm still trying to create a data set. Yes, so it's a very simple and it's only one data set you're creating. Just click on this create data set. You click on data sets, create data sets, or you click on here, create data sets, right? Still the same thing. Okay, so for you, Ms. Bisola, if you click on create table, you see create table from empty table. You just click on upload, right? You select it and you click on upload, and then you select file. Then you can browse and select your particular file. So browse and select either of them. As I was saying, these are the ones that we're using. Payments, we're not using review. We're definitely not using review. Mhm. Yes, yes. So customers, other item, other payments. Yeah. I feel like okay, just click auto detect. Right. I thought they've changed that auto detect stuff. So let me no, no partition. You've not reached there. Okay. So the destination table is the name you're calling it. Right. So okay, let me show you one. Where did I download the data sets to? Documents. Yeah. Mm. Olist raw data. You are right here. Olist raw. I've written it in the chat. Why can't I find my? Okay. Let me see. Customer data sets. Okay. Ms. Bisola, for this one, you have destination. This is your project. This is your project, your actual BigQuery project. This is your data set, the data set you just created. And then table is the name of the table you want to call it. You can call it all these customers, right? Just give it the same name with the actual data, so it does not get too confusing. So all these customers is okay, and then auto detects, and that is all. Okay, okay, No, don't do that. Yeah, just create. That's the most straightforward way. All right. So that means your data set has been created. So after a data set has been created, you want to start creating you want to start uploading your data sets. You want to start doing this inside here. Other results. So these are what I'm using. One, two, three, four, five, six. Just the six. These are the six that we are using. You can delete every other. Yeah, I just deleted the rest, right? No, now I just see them here, right? See them here. Customers, other items, other payments, orders, products, and sellers. Yes. So one by one, you upload those data inside BigQuery, right? One by one. Okay, so let's go back to our table. Create table, then switch here to upload, and then select your file. So done customers, other items, CSV table, other items, auto detect schema, and then create table. All right, so are we done? Or we are still in the process of creating our table? Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so this is the setting of your this is setting of BigQuery. We have data sets. We have data sets, and then inside data sets you have series of tables, right? So table one. So inside your data set you have series of tables, right? So a data set is just a collection of tables. That is what it is. Now for this data set, this is our raw data set. So this is a collection of our raw tables, right? Of our raw data. So inside your data set, you click inside, and you go to create table. So you want to create table inside these data sets. So click on create table here. So the moment you click on create table, you see your options, and then you see create table from upload, since it's coming from your system. So once you click on upload, you select your file. Click on browse and select each of the files that. Okay. Okay, Ms. Busula, are you done with uploading yours? All right. I hope Ezekiel comes back. Okay, so we already have now you have your tables inside BigQuery. And so if you remember, what we just did is we just created this particular part, right? This raw. We just created this raw, this one over here. So remember, we created this command, but not like uh, we did it automatically. Okay, so from this raw now, what we want to do, the next thing we want to do is we want to start transforming it through this series of stages, right? So from your raw, you transform it and upload it to your staging, and then from staging, intermediates, and then maths. So the question is, how does all this transformation actually works, right? In SQL, right? In database, we have two forms of querying. We have a table. We have a table, and then we have a view. Right? So, like I mentioned before, have I mentioned it before? We have a table, and then we have a view, right? So we typically, what a table is a physical storage, right? A table is what is actually, a table is the data itself, right? So if you open up an Excel file, you open up an Excel sheet and you see it in Excel, that is a table, right? Everything loaded here, you can go in and you see them, you see the data inside here physically. This is a table, right? The data is actually stored in this table. Now, for a view, your data is not stored, right? The model is just saved as an SQL query. So you don't actually store anything in a view, right? It's not storage at all. It's not storage. Yeah, he did. Mm. So when it comes back, so let me just give an example of what a view is. If let's say you have a tap, right? So this is your tap, this is your tap, and you're fetching water, and then this is your tank. This is where your water is being stored. A view is more like the pipe itself that goes from your tap to the tank, right? So the tank being the table, while the view being the pipe. So you don't, there's no data, it just passes. Your entire transformation from, so your staging is going to be a view. In some cases, your intermediates might be a view, depends on your design. So let's just assume our staging is a view and our intermediate is also. So what is going to happen is this is a table, this is a table. Your data just passes here, and enters into your table, right? And it remains there. Every time you run, every time you run your DBT project, right? The same process happens, just like you on a tap, and then the water just passes through here, through the pipe, and then reaches the tank. So that's just the idea of what a table and a view is. So a view is just typically the SQL queries itself, right? So we use the SQL queries themselves. SQL queries. Okay. So that is the distinction between a table and a view. Nothing too complicated between two of them. Okay. So back in our projects, you have this dbt underscore project.y, and you can see here we have our models and our specified I think I just put this here. So I've specified staging, but we've not put in staging inside our models. So these models here is these models that's inside here. Everything that's going to be inside here. Why these models here is also this models folder, right? So this model specifying models here tells DBT that okay, check for a folder called models. That is where all our models, our DBT models would be. Right? If I were to change, I can change this and save it as model, but there's no model folder inside here. Mm. So I could rename this to model and it would work, right? But just naming standard, call your files models, call these seeds and call these snapshots, right? This is a naming convention. So it's like a lay down rule to just follow instead of um, multiple projects having different names. Who knows? Somebody might go and write something completely different. So you just clarify there. So inside here now we have our models. DB2 check inside our models. Our project is the Olist project, number Olist project, and then we would have a staging folder. So inside here we'll create a folder and call it staging, right? The same way we have a staging folder, we can literally still call it something else, right? You can call it SCG, and your folder has to be named SCG, else it will not recognize that folder, right? SCG, sorry, not SCG. SCG, else it will not recognize the folder as staging, right? So for clarity, let's call it staging. Rename this to staging, and then we also have an intermediate folder and also have maps. Also have a maps. So create intermediate, also create a maps. Okay. So this okay, you have them already. Yeah, just create it. Mm. You can do that. But funny how in the project, the thing is, if you check this particular project, right, we don't have an intermediate in it, right? So it's just particular to this one. The reason is that the reason for no intermediate being here is there's no, if you look at your data sets, there's nothing that really needs joining, right? All the tables, the entire data is just one stuff, one singular stuff. Others table. So the intermediate is not even needed now. I'm just demonstrating it. Hey, Ezekiel, come back. Okay, let's continue. Uh, All right. So if you look at your folder, you would have models, you have seeds, and you have this DBT projects. Technically, these are the only two things that we've created: model, seeds, and DBT projects. So it's funny how the entire DBT, right? That you hear DBT is literally just this one file, in one file and a couple of folders. It's nothing too complicated beyond that. The rest is SQL. Everything that is going inside here is going to be SQL. Everything that comes out here is also going to be SQL. So SQL is a fundamental part of DBT. And so if you don't know SQL much, just go and brush up on that. But it's a very simple stuff to learn, especially with AI nowadays. So now inside here we have all our models laid out. So this is the GitHub project. So this is what I'm going to be using for direction. As I've made this earlier on, it's just best to use it for direction. So inside our staging, we have these are our individual models. Staging, customers, other items, other payments, orders, products, and sellers. And we have two extra files: sources underscore sources.yaml and schema.yaml. Right? These are the first two that we'll be dealing with in uh, your DBT project. So remember, your transformation starts in this stage, and then it goes to intermediate, and then it goes to max. So what you will do inside this staging is you create these two folders. So look at this: underscore sources.yaml and schema.yaml. And then I'll explain to you what these files are meant for. So go into your DBT projects and just create a new folder and call it underscore sources. Oh, sorry. New file, sources.yml. Okay, and then the same schema.yml. All right. So what's our sources? I really seen hard full screen. So still not full. Just like that. So what is sources, right? Sources or source, as the name implies, is the source of your data, right? Is the is where your data is going to come in from, like the origin of data. So it's really just you're now telling DBT that okay, this is where you pick up this particular data that you want to use and transform. And remember, your data that you're picking up, your source is your raw data sets. If you go to this is actually the source, right? Data sets. So these tables here are your sources, your original tables, right? Everything inside here. Olist customers, other items, other payments, orders, products, and sellers. You're going to specify it inside your DBT project as okay, you're going to get your customers data sets from this table, Olist customer. You're going to get your other items data sets from here. This is the source of that data. The same thing with payments, the same with orders and products and the rest, right? That's the entire idea behind sources. So if you go inside here, if you go inside to that sources.yml, this is just how you configure that particular source, right? So you have the same way with your DBT projects as YML. This is just the format. You have version 2, you just have that there, nothing, you know, it's just a template. You can even remove it, but it's just helpful to put it there. So now I don't know the purpose, right? Why it's just requested inside there, but just follow along. Then this is where your sources starts from. So you have sources, then under your sources you have the name. Now what is this name? This is the name. This name here is what you want to give your source. If I can explain that better, it's just the name of your source. You're just giving, you're telling DBT that this is what you want to, sorry, you're telling DBT that this is what you want to name your source within your DBT project. So if we just go, if we go inside here, put in your version 2, and then you start here. So sources, wait, sources, right? You enter, click enter, and wait, no, click enter, and then you press space twice, right? Then you put a dash. Are you following? Okay, so you put a dash and then space and name. So this name here is what you want to give the name of this particular source, right? So we can call it Olist raw data set. So DBT will register this name as a source and we'll use it later on inside our models. So the next thing we have after is the name of your source is your schema. Now, what is your schema? Your schema is actually from um, BigQuery, right? Your schema here is the name of your data set. So if you go to BigQuery, you go to data sets. This is your schema. All this raw data set, all this raw data, right? This particular one here is your schema. So you go into your sources.yml, and then you have to you have to enter inside here. So just click on space again, align with what you have up here, and then you put in schema, and you put in this name, your BigQuery name, Olist raw data. So Olist raw data. Let me refresh it. Can you see it? Okay. I'm not ready anything. Okay, so right here, Olist raw data, right? So this is the name of your source. This is the name of your DBT of your BigQuery data set. Then the next in line is now the tables, right? Which tables are inside this data set that you want to use as your source. And if you go inside here, these are your tables. These are the name of your tables. All these customers, all these other items, other payments. And I put this one as all these customers. I didn't know that. Okay, so I don't know what's the name of tables in your own project, right? Your own BigQuery project. Mine is all these customer, other items, other payments, others, products, and sellers. And you want to use this format inside here. like this. So you go back into VS Code, you click on enter, and then you click on enter and then you write tables. Okay, so after I write tables, you now click on enter and you want to put the name of those particular tables. So you press space twice, right? Indentation one, two, and then you put this dash and then space again, name. Now the indentation is actually very important because even one extra space will give you an error. So this particular indentation is important. So one thing to note is if you're inside VS Code and say you're here, right? This is the start of the line. If you click your tab button, right? If you click your tab button, if you click your tab button, your tab is four spaces, one, two, three, four, right? So that tab button is four spaces. For your name is only two spaces um front. It's actually spaces, right? It's an entire tab, four spaces front. But then you need to have this dash after the second space, right? That's why you have to put it after the second space. So every other thing after is just four full spaces, just complete tab, right? So from here to this line is a full tab, four space. From this to this line is a full tab again, four spaces. So name of our table, you go to your table and then you check the name of the table. All these customers is how we specify it inside your DBT project. So I'll specify mine as all these customers. All right. So after your name, you now have you go in complete tab. It's complete four spaces. So you can just do press space twice or you press tab. It will go into that indentation. So after name, you now have description. So you have description, which describes the particular table. Sometimes you can omit it, but it's just good for documentation. So you have description. You can actually omit it and it's not giving any error. So you have description and you just put this is police raw customer data sets. Just give it a description. Anything at all can go in here. So there's not compulsory, right? It's just necessary, not compulsory. You can actually go ahead with your project without this description, but you cannot go ahead without the table name. So you repeat the same thing for all the other tables. So orders, other items, other payments, orders, products, and sellers. So let's go name the items name. Is it too manual? Mm. What is Yeah, so what is pre-populating is Copilot, right? It's Copilot that is doing all those pre-population. Now, the reason why I'm doing it manually is because of laziness. Personally, if I was doing it, I'm just pressing tab. Anything AI gives me, I just press tab. and it's populate everything. I'll just make any correction and go ahead, right? But since you're learning, you have to do it manually. There's no there's no escaping it. Then when you're comfortable with this particular format, this is when you can now say, okay, you want to do the AI pre-populated version. If I go back and allow Copilot to work on my system, you see it will just help me pre-populate the stuff. I'll just be putting tab and continue that way. So so just bear with me for the start. So orders, products, and sellers. Name, order, product, seller. Okay. So if you're done, let me know. Okay. And you can leave it. Why? Mm, okay. Mm, mm. So at least the idea is that you understand the purpose of the name and description, right? I'm just putting it there for demonstration purposes. So okay, so we have this now. This now tells DBT that yeah, this is our tables. This is the name of our table, and this tells any human being that sees this project later on that okay, this is the description of this table. The next thing we have in line is this guy here, schema.yml file. Schema.yml file is also a is not is not a required it's not required. Not like let's say it's not required. It's not compulsory, right? But it's necessary. So the entire schema.yml file. Um why why is it necessary? It helps us write tests, right? You can just it helps us describe your columns in is another lengthy file itself. So it just helps you describe. Yeah? Okay. Okay. So as I was saying, this guy just helps with it helps with yeah schema.yml file, right? It just helps with so if when you're building your models, when in SQL, you sometimes you want to write particular tests, right, to ensure your data is how you want it, right? Like for example, um a test generally could be ensuring a particular column has no nulls, right? So you don't want a value to be empty in a particular column. That is a test. A test could be you want to ensure all the columns have a unique value, right? So you can't expect your customers, or if you're in school, you can't expect two students to have the same ID. That's an example of a unique test, right? And it makes it easy. Why it's just important is DBT makes it easy to write out these tests. So in DBT, there are like four inbuilt tests, not null, unique, and two other ones. I'll get it and then I'll pass it across. So if you want to write it out in DBT, this is just literally what you do, right? You specify your model, you specify the name, you specify the column that you want to write that test on, right? Which is this name, customer ID, and then you put in your test, not null, unique. Okay, okay, I'm coming. Okay, so as I was saying, test schema just helps. It helps with a number of things, right? But it majorly helps with writing inbuilt tests inside DBT, right? So, for example, you would have a column, right? You would have a table that you want to ensure some level of data quality. So if you write a test for that, for a particular column, and the test, see it here, yeah, test. So you run tests on your models or your table. So um, I think you should have heard, if you've been in data, you should have heard they do tests on tables also. But if you've not heard it before, it's just ensuring that your model, your table, your column, anything inside there meets a particular criteria. Right? So that's just the idea of test. And an example would be having a column inside your table. So inside this Olist customers, we would have a column, customer ID. So a test could be ensuring that empty there are no empty rows with there are no what am I trying to say? Empty fields, right, for customer ID inside that particular column, right? And again, you want to ensure that because all customer IDs are unique, right? So there's no of the same cost two of the same customer ID. It means if there is two of the same customer ID, it means that maybe it's a duplicate or an error, right? So it just helps in writing tests. And if you've not used like SQL generally, you would know how much of a pain it is to write these tests. And this is why DBT was built. So for people who have been using SQL way before now, and they jump into BigQuery, and they jump into DBT, they will know the huge leap, right? They will know how like it just saves you a lot. But for you guys now that are coming straight up inside DBT, you may not really grasp the idea, but it's very helpful. So just to write your test, we have a couple of built-in tests in DBT where you just write tests and then you put in the name. We have not null to ensure that a particular column has no empty values. We have unique to ensure that all values in that column is unique, right? No duplicates of the same value. And we have two other columns. There are four built-in tests, right, in DBT, and we have two others that are not here. I'll just mention it, but I'm not going to them. We have accepted values and then relationships, right? So accepted values just means that in this particular column, any value outside the values I specify. So let me even bring this here and bring it in. So this is what accepted value test is. So these are accepted values. So in here we have specified values. Any values outside these values inside here. So if yes, that drop down. So any values outside here is to return an error. And the relationship, we're not going to relationship now. That is later work. So inside let's go back to our DBT project. So we're now going to our schema.yml. Like I said, this is entirely optional, not mandatory. But once you want to write a test, just go ahead and start building out your schema. So that's why I can see the schema. The schema is actually very short. Right? I didn't write anything much inside here. So we can go as usual and write version 2. Or should I just copy and paste this for you? Or you want to type it out manually? Alright. Okay, so I've sent it. So if you've pasted it, you can remove this one down here. You don't have such model inside. Remove the customer unique ID. Although we've not even created the model, but we'll go ahead and do that. So I done. Okay, so finally we can now go down into actual models, starting with customers, customers.sql. So as you can see, okay, mm, uh, yeah. So this is our customers model, right, named SCGO is customers. Now this is a very simple model. Like I said, staging is for renaming, transformation, cleaning, and the likes. But our original data set is already clean. We are literally almost doing nothing inside here. So what this simply says is, if you can see, I'll copy it and paste it so you can carry it. So go into your DBT project, we want to create a model. We want to create our first model inside staging. So create a new file, call it staging scg olist and customers dot sql. So once you create the file, you can, yes, a file name you a file that's for your model, and then you name it scg olist customers. So that is the name of your staging model. In your own or my own, yours will be different. There's a file. All these are just icons. Just ignore the icon. Mm, they're just fancy icons. If you want, if you want your own to be showing icons, yours should be showing something now. Okay, yeah, you can paste it inside. Remember to be saving your files. Yes. So remember to save all your other files. O- Okay, so let's read your error. That's part of learning. So read your error. Okay, 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 okay. So fail to render SQL, not a key type. Forget all those long story. Your main story starts here. Source not found for source name Olist. Now remember where we wrote our source in sources.yml file, right? You remember? Yeah, and remember what you gave your source name. So yeah, in your sources.yml file, right? Forget for So what he's trying to find now, you can see the code I gave you uses Olist as the source, right? So it's trying to find inside our sources.yml file for a source named Olist, but it can't find it. So what do? We change this Olist to your actual source inside here. So what's our source? Olist raw dataset. That's the name of my source here. So I can go here, call it Olist raw dataset. So once you put that, you save it. Okay, good. So now let's check our source, our error. Source not found, source name, Olist raw dataset, and then table name, customers. So let's go and check. We are certain that our source name is Olist raw dataset. So let's check our table name that we have inside here. So what is our table name? What is your table name inside here? Okay, okay. So you can see there's no customers inside there. So what are we going to do? We are going to change it to your table name inside there. So Olist underscore customers. What is the error? Okay, so now check what you wrote and confirm is the same thing inside that source. If you're not sure, just copy it and paste it inside there. And remember, you have to save your table. You have to save your file before it checks it again, before it reloads. The same thing. You're still seeing error. Okay, share your screen. Let me see it myself. Except your indentation is off. And that is not the same. Or your it's most likely your indentation. So let's see. So you see, you're not putting space inside your, yeah, right. Okay, so we have this. You have your first model here. So what is going on inside your first model? Honestly, nothing. Right. What you're just doing is with source as select all your so select all. This means all. This asterisk. So if you have an idea, you can even go ahead and say it. Uh, mm, 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 mm. Yeah. So that's exactly what it means, right? So it simply means from this source. So your source is this guy here. Your source is this guy here. All this raw data set, right? So from that source, inside this table, all these customers. What's the table? All these customers. This is the all these customers. Return all the columns inside. So how does it know? It's now DBT now checks this table. It checks this table and then it checks the data sets, right? So these are data sets, and then it checks the table inside that data set, and then it returns all the values inside here. So if we go and check, if we check our BigQuery, this our all these customer data sets, right? So it's return customer ID, customer unique ID, zip code, city, and state, right? So we are now doing a little transformation here, which is not necessary, but just for extra demonstration. Because if you can see inside here, you already have this is your raw. This is not even your transformed data set. This is your raw data set. You can see you already have customer ID as a string. Right? See the name and the type. Customer ID as a string. You have unique ID as a string. You have zip code as an integer, which is a number. You have city as a string and state as a string, right? So we are just inside this model. We are literally repeating the same logic here. Nothing is honestly changing, right? So we are saying um we are saying give us all those columns. Give us all the columns from here and give it to us as a source, right? Give it to us as source. So everything, all the columns now is stored inside this variable source. Now the next the next query Funny how this thing, let me make it more readable. So let it be like this. Shift tab and put space here. Put space here. Mm, 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 yeah. Mm. Yeah, yeah, you're honestly right, right? There's no need for this entire code or for this entire model. So why am I putting it here? I'm literally just putting it here for demonstration purposes, right? Because the code itself, the data itself is already clean. If we had a much messier data, it would be a different story. So we are literally just doing the same thing over here. We are saying, so inside this is a city, and you can preview this city. Okay, so what we'll do now, let me just quick explanation and then go. So inside this city, as source, oh, it's already 9. As source, then inside this second city, we are getting everything from this source up here. So from source, we are now doing a little transformation. So what is transformation? We are casting customer ID as voucher, but as we can see inside BigQuery is already a voucher, it's already a string, right? So we are literally doing the same thing, and we are naming it as customer ID, same name. So there's no need, but it's for demonstration purposes. Now imagine a case where this guy was just ID, right? And ID doesn't make much sense, for the end users that are picking, okay, ID, what's ID? Is he product ID? Is he customer ID? Is he student ID? So in this case now, you could say, if this your raw table was just ID, these guys have already helped us and clean it, and I doubt you'll be seeing things as clean as this. So if it was just ID, you cannot do you cannot do select ID as and then give it your name, customer ID. Now imagine this ID, you wanted this ID to be an integer, a number, and not a string, right? And it came in as a string. Now you can now do cast ID as integer, so as int, right? Cast it as an int and then rename it as customer ID. Now that is an actual useful transformation. So if you're catching my drift, right, that is what I'm just trying to demonstrate inside here. But everything is already clean. It's given to you, no headache, no stress. Okay, so did you get that? Okay, so process. Okay, so back to our original stuff. And then we cannot, if you're not dragging, so we want to run, let's run this model inside BigQuery. Run it inside BigQuery now. So let me check one or two things. Close, go to back to your data sets. Okay. So if you want to run that model, you open up your terminal as we do before, and then I'll just paste in the code. You do dbt run dash dash select, then you call in your model scg Olist customers customer. So okay, that's his name. Customer, and then you click enter. So this will run it inside BigQuery for you. So copy. Okay, I've pasted it for you. Let me see. Access denied. Does not have permissions to create the perhaps does not. Did I go and do something else? What do you want to play? You can just to see this plus here, you can just click this plus. You can actually clear it. Okay, so please run that code and let me see what is there. If it gives you error, go and change it. Have you run it? Okay, what's the error? Alright, so okay, so what you do is go back to BigQuery. Remember, anything access or permissions is in your I am an admin, right? Anything access and permission. If you ever see such an error, just know something is up inside your I am an admin. So what we did was the our service account. Remember we created a service account. Yes, our service account that we created did not give it the particular permission or the particular rule that will allow you create tables inside BigQuery. So um, we'll go and use that. So just go into your I am an admin and go into your service account and then click on that service account that we created. So are you there? Okay. So in your service accounts, go to permissions. Yes, manage access. Let's see. It will not take 3 minutes. It's done already. Hopefully, it will not take few minutes. In most cases, it is already done. Okay, so we can go back to our project, run the same code. Hmm? Okay, so let's go here and change this voucher. So this is another thing with, let's say, with databases, right? Different different databases have different SQL um, may have different SQL scripts, right? So what is the word this called it? So this voucher does not work for BigQuery, right? It's worked for the previous database I was using before while creating the project, which was DocDB. So we'll change voucher to string. Let me confirm if it's string. Yeah, so just change it to string instead of voucher as string. What's the problem? Okay. Hey, yours is done. Okay. Come on, just finish. So now you can go and check BigQuery and you see your model inside there. That is the same step, the same process that I'll use and build every other. So where go to BigQuery. So by your menu your menu by your left and then it's your studio. You you see just scroll down. Have you seen it? Okay, let me see. You see a new table, you see a new data set inside there. Yeah, that is it. What are you expecting? Mm, yep. Why? why- Wait, I'm so confused. Why did you? Why are you doing? Wait. First off, if when we are going to be done now. So that's why we'll end it here. We'll close it here, and then in the next class we can do for the rest of the tables. If you want to attempt it by yourself, you can also do it. And don't worry, I'll share you the GitHub link. It's not hard. It's right here. You can always visit it. So I'll paste. That's this the GitHub itself. Yes, you see everything inside here. You see models. Mhm. You see models. You see staging. Then you see all the models inside here. Mhm. It's available. Mhm. Yes. Yeah. You will change. Mm. Yeah. So no problem, Isaiah. You can carry it yourself and do as assignments. So if you're one more thing, if you're done with, let's say you put all your models inside here. So how many are they? One, two, three, four. There's like six of them, right? So if you put all six of them and you don't want to be running this, you don't want to be running this thing manually, like um dbt run select underscore kinikon. You can just you can just use dbt run and end there and to run everything inside your project. Yeah, yeah, and make sure it's saved. So if you want that engineering money, you have to do the engineering work. If it's that easy, AI would have taken over everything. But it's not that easy. So it's not as simple as we think it is. Yes, they said the devil is in the details. So these are the details. These are the little details. Alright, so that is where we will end for tonight.